Hey, you know you can actually enter Chamber of Arms normally? What happened? It broke in Japan, so they expected it to break here. And so they kept telling us that it was going to be unavailable, put up notices for at least an entire month, and the day of judgment finally arrives. And they somehow managed to not break it? Now that's what I call a task failed successfully. Oh yeah, Doma Samurai Cyan. Okay, so his Trustmaster Reward is... Oh, look at this interface. It's a materia that boosts attack by 50% and grants a double 40% killer against birds and demons. 40% is annoying, given that it's 10% less than the standard 50, but it's still an effective materia. His Super Trustmaster Reward is a two-handed katana with great damage variance, and happens to boast the second highest attack stat for a katana in the game. However, its passives are restricted to units from Final Fantasy VI. Ho ho, I no longer have to squint! They're great passives, with a 75% boost to limit burst damage and a 20% boost to physical evasion, but without them all you have is a big katana. It's no problem if you plan to prioritize Cyan, but it's not a good sign for equipment's future application if it's so restrictive. Onto his active abilities. Fang, whoa, they really improved this. Okay, removes any of the enemy's evasion stacks, lowers their defense by 80%, and hits them. Sky activates a physical counter, grants Cyan a 75% general and physical mitigation buff, a provoke buff, and increases the damage of, let's see, list. Hello there! Wow, there we go, the normal attack. Tiger changes Stardust Ray. Flurry deals 4 hits, and fills your team's limit burst gauges by a decent amount. Passives. With his Trustmaster Reward or Super Trustmaster Reward equipped, he gets a big boost to his limit burst gauge fill rate, and raises his limit burst damage by 50%. We see that he has a bunch of killers, Bird, Dragon, and Stone. Already meets half the limit burst damage cap even without his Trustmaster Reward, and gets a big boost to equipment attack so long as he's holding a single weapon. If you get him to EX plus 2, he gets 500 attack, and automatically fills his limit burst gauge at the start of the battle. I love this interface. If I tap his triple cast... Nope, doesn't look like it goes that far. Oh well. My man meets half the chain cap, so if you want to go all the way, you know who to call. Let's look at his limit burst. It lowers the enemy's earth resistance by 130%, raises his earth damage by 25%, boosts his limit burst damage by 150%, and then deals earth damage. Time to change forms. With a super limit burst, the Brave Shift is applied to the standard limit burst. No Brave Shift makes it easy to equip. But with the introduction of skins, you can eventually bring in this form and pretend it's a Brave Shift. Anyways, his super limit burst. It's quite similar to his limit burst, but raises the earth damage up to 35%, grants him a dragon and a stone killer buff, and then deals tremendous earth damage. Now, it looks like it's missing the limit burst damage buff, but all super limit bursts come with an automatic buff called Attack Shift, which automatically raises the unit's attack by 250%, and their limit burst damage by 200%, while instantly filling their limit burst gauges when the super limit burst is ready. The attack buff also persists even after he's used his super limit burst, which is an added bonus. Let's rank Brave abilities. Raising Fang and Flurry just raises their damage, not their effects, so there's really no priority here. Time to make a damage rotation. I'll assume he's at EX plus 1, because there's no way I'll ever get him further anyways. I'll also assume he's holding his Trustmaster Reward or Super Trustmaster Reward, as that gives access to a big limit burst fill per turn. And finally, I'll assume you've maxed his limit burst gauge level, to minimize its cost. On turn 1, triple cast Flurry. This, alongside his passives, will fill his limit burst gauge, so activate that on turn 2. And then repeat from here. Feel free to use his super limit burst whenever it's ready. So, EX2? Cyan's EX plus 2 unlocks some of his passives, alongside reducing his super limit burst cooldown by a single turn. The instant limit burst gauge is nice for instant finishing, but with the super limit burst automatically filling the unit's limit burst gauge with the effective attack shift, the normal limit burst ultimately becomes a power tool rather than the ultimate attack. It doesn't quite help that Cyan can easily use his limit burst at will anyways, as long as he's properly equipped for it. Either way, not that that's a problem, considering his limit burst is pretty strong. But it has to be stressed that even with his super limit burst, Cyan doesn't reach the Final Fantasy VII level. Ultimately, raising Cyan's EX level doesn't change who he is, nor does it increase his options. All it does is make him a stronger unit, which in turn makes his EX awakenings fairly low priority in a game like this. So how good is Doma Samurai Cyan? As the first practitioner of the super limit burst, he's pretty unsatisfying. The lack of an attack boost isn't really helpful either, As a Super Limit Burst user, he does have access to attack shift, but in order for that to activate, you need his Super Limit Burst to be available. And at EX +1, that means you have to wait 5 turns before it even activates. Sure, in the end, it all works out, as he's still a very strong damage dealer. Stronger than Cobalt Blade Noctis, but definitely weaker than the Final Fantasy VII trio. Sky is a better measure for comparison, but she has an advantage with a Brave Shift. Unfortunately, a great majority of battles demand some measure of resistance nowadays, which, understandably, cut into your unit's overall damage. However, with a Brave Shift, they could reliably defend themselves in one form, and then cast it all aside for an all-out assault when the moment called for it. But, as you might expect, Cyan doesn't quite have that option, and neither will any future Super Limit Burst damage dealer. This means you either hope for a lenient fight, or you simply cripple yourself. Ironically, the man can hold a shield, but his equipment attack strictly adheres to two-handed weapons. His defensive stats are decent to compensate, but that isn't too significant when elemental resistance is usually the biggest factor. So it's quite the predicament, but there is an alternative. Just bring someone else with a Brave Shift. A bit of a surprising solution, I know, but how are you going to win if you're dead? Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, leave a like and subscribe. Comment below if you plan to get Doma Samurai Cyan. Despite all his flaws, he's still a very good damage dealer. That is, if you ever get to a position where he can reliably deal damage. Really nice interface though.